This session is called May the Forms Be With You, and I'm excited to take you guys through it. We're going to be looking at what is an infoodle form, how you can use it, and save yourself some time, some of the techniques that you can use, and what forms are good for using as well. So things like newsletter signups, updating contact details, registering for an event, giving feedback from maybe different events, or just general surveys. It could be taking payments, whether it's a one-off donation or a recurring donation or tithe. It can be even stock items, maybe you're selling t-shirts or mugs or even tickets to an event, so forth. So there's quite a lot of uses, and then looking at where you can use them, whether it be via email, social media, on your website, etc. So let's jump straight into that and have a look. Firstly, let's have a look at the form section and just get you up to speed with what you're looking at. If you haven't used the forms before, this will just be a big blank list and you'll need to create your first one. Here we've got a few examples already. So we've got the add here, we've got recent entries. So adding new forms, recent entries is forms that have been filled out by people. And then we've got the form names, a description to help you remember what that form's about. Is the form currently active? So can people fill it out? And when is the active period? So why you'd have an active period is maybe you're registering for an event. Registration's open on Monday, but close on Friday. If you don't register within that, sorry, tough luck. Our number of responses in total, and how many currently need processing. So there is a step to these. We don't have someone fill out a form and it automatically update your database, because a bored teenager could get their hands on this and fill your database with random rubbish, or someone could accidentally type in their name wrong, or their organization name, or their email wrong, and update your database and mess that up. Also, spam bots could get a hold of the link potentially, and also add a whole load of rubbish into your database. So we do have a manual processing of those to prevent that sort of interaction from happening and ruining your database. So here we can see how many are waiting to be processed, and then we've got some general information. So one has been processed, two have been approved, one's been deleted, possibly because it was some rubbish. We can see any email fails. So if someone typed in the email wrong, and we've got an automatic email response saying thank you for filling this out, here's some more information, we can see those errors. We've got a link to the live form, so this will actually show us a form that we can fill in. We've got our edit, which is how we make all of our changes. We've got a copy form, so if we are wanting to reuse a form as a template and then just make some tweaks, we can do that as well. And finally, the entries. So this is where you go to actually see what has been filled out. So that's the quick interface of the form list. Let's also have a look at the forms themselves. So we're just going to add a new one. So at the top here, we've got form name. So what is your form about? So it's update my details, perhaps. We've got privacy settings as well. So if other people shouldn't be able to see and edit these, you can select groups that can and restrict it to them. On the left-hand side here is all of the stuff you can add to your form. So it's drag and drop. So if we want to add a heading, we can add it to here. So this is the form builder section. What's our heading? So update your details. And then you can drag and drop it. Up top, you'll notice generic. This is generic fields. So these are fields that the information is going to be on the form and the form alone. If you're wanting to do reporting on it, it's not going to happen because it's been stored only on the form. Even when you move the form to a person, the form belongs to that person, but the data stays on the form. So that's useful sometimes when, like when we do a roadshow, we'll be sending you out a survey. We just want to know initially the feedback, and we make notes about that and highlight certain things. But we're not going to 6 months down the track run a report on that and say, find me all of the 3s and 4s, and then people that are our clients and things like that. We don't need to drill down. So it's acceptable that it's on the form and the form alone. We can export all of our forms as an Excel spreadsheet. So if we didn't need that data for something, we still got access. So generic fields only live on the form. Very important to remember. And then we've got people fields. So these are the fields that are actually on a person's profile. You'll see here we've got personal, person data, application data, information. Now if I just open up a new tab here and we look at a person, a real person preferably, Dan Carter, great. Thanks, Dan. We can see these tabs along here. So there's that person data, application data, etc., etc. So that's what these are. And if I click into any one of these, I see the fields that are under those tabs as well. So drag in one of these. Maybe we want to see the allergies of this person. That's going to come up on the form, and it means whatever they select there will actually update the field on their profile when we approve this form. So anything you want updating there on the profile, you need to use as a person field or custom field. Very important to know that distinction. This information, as I say, when it gets approved, we'll then update, and then we can do our reporting on that information. We can do see it at a glance when we go to a person's profile, etc. So very important. We also have organizational fields, or if you're in the household view, the household field. So again, infoodle understands mum, dad, and the kids in a household, but also understands the boss, the CEO, the HR, the coffee runner in an organization. So that term is interchangeable. So if you got some fields relating to the organization or the household that they're in, you can add those as well. You can also add people directly to a group. So this is great for instance, on our website, when you sign up to our free training sessions, the different training sessions are different groups in infoodle, so that we can see how many people have actually registered. So you'll see here, please book me into, and you select which training session you want to book into. If you checked forms training, that's going to add you to that group immediately. So much easier for us to manage. We can then send emails to everyone in that group saying, don't forget, you're in the forms training. It's not as exciting as the roadshow forms training, but it's still the forms training, so don't forget. So very useful in that sense. We've got financial items. If you don't have the finance section, you won't have this, and it's not important, but this is where you can add stock items, tickets, mugs, t-shirts, whatever you want. Those stock items are added in the finance section. You can add that there. You can add campaigns and total stock items added and account codes, giving numbers, all sorts of fun things around that. And then payment methods as well. So these payment methods you'll get even if you don't have the finance section. You'll be able to take one-off payments if you don't have the finance. If you do have the finance section, then you can take multiple reoccurring payments. So that's using a payment gateway like Stripe, which is our recommended, but we integrate with a few others as well. The recurring is great for things like monthly payments, recurring tithes, memberships, etc. And we allow you to choose the period that you want to use as well. So by default, we give all of the options, but you could give only one time and annually. Perhaps it's an annual membership that you're getting people to sign up to. With all of these, they've all got settings. So by clicking on any one of these, we'll be seeing the applicable settings for each. There's a couple of common things for each of these as well. So if I just look at allergies, for example, we've got a label, so you can relabel what people are seeing. A help message, which will add a little eye there to give them a little more detail when they hover over it. Mandatory, so they have to fill out this information or the form doesn't get submitted. Is it only on their approval form? So that is kind of like an office use only, except people don't get to see it, only you do. Only you, the admins, approving the form. So that's useful for when you're wanting to add people in a group that you've got, but you don't want to expose people to those group names. You don't want them to see that they've been added to particular groups, or you don't want them to make that decision themselves because they don't know how you are managing your database. So you may have 5 different types of newcomer groups. The one is you're just a general newcomer, so if you fill out this form, we're going to put you in that automatically. It may be a welcome lunch. So they've indicated they want to go into lunch, so we will put them into that. It could be different newsletter types. So this person may be an adult that signed up with us, so they need to go into a different type of newsletter than our teenage, our youth, etc. So you can manage that process when you're approving the form. So that's what only on approval form allows you to do. Default value, so you can pre-select stuff as well if you wanted to. And some of these, like when there's checkboxes, you can choose how that shows up. So you can do a radial, which forces them to choose one or the other, a drop-down list, or a checkbox to allow them to choose more than one, or a checkbox that when there's only one group, it hides the name. So just different formatting, essentially. And then available lookups as well. So we can give them the different options that they can select. Let's go look at a form that we've actually built. So we'll look at our registration for an alpha event, for example. So let's just look at the actual form itself. Yeah, we've added a picture. That picture's got what looks like our links, but this is just a flat picture. We've got some general information, and we've got people information here, so we can capture names, emails, and then general information. We've made name and email mandatory, and that's important in most cases because if you're going to match this to a person, we need either a name or an email address, and infoodle will look for matches based on those. And then the rest has been made optional, and because this is an event, we can sign up for a number of tickets as well. And we can optionally expose how many seats are available, how many tickets are still available. And we've got multiple, the ability to register multiple people as well. So we can add another person optionally. So you've got the option of adding that feature as well. And then actually submitting this. Once that gets submitted, we'll have to process over there, and we can check out our entries. See how we can see a couple of people have entered, they haven't paid anything, we can see their names, and if I go into any one of these, I can see there's Jane Doe and Jane Doe's information, and we've got John Doe and John's information. And then we can approve the information as we need to. So at the moment, infoodle's not finding a match based on either the name or the email, so we can create a new person, and that's going to use the information from the form to create that person in your database. So we'll have a person called John Doe with that email address, with that phone number, with these settings, etc. But what happens if we know that John Doe is in our database and we just can't find him? Oh, it's Joe Smith. That's quite a leap, but maybe they go by a different name, or we've got a nickname for them, or the spelling's slightly different from what we're used to. So you can search infoodle and find that match as well if you need to, and assign it to that person. And if it does find a match, you'll have a button here. It'll show some details on that person to confirm that it's got the right match, and then you can just approve it straight to that person. So that data will then go to those people. It's all there, all available, and you're ready to go. Okay. The other things to note about these, so let's just go and edit that form, is we've got a few different settings. So under form settings, we've got a description. So that's just to remind you what this form's about. We've got additional CSS code. Now this is an advanced feature that we don't officially support, as in we don't officially provide support for. It's meant for if you've got a graphics designer, a web designer that's available to you as a volunteer or on your payroll. They can help you with this. It's not something we're going to explain. We do have help documentation on it, but what it is it allows you to take a standard infoodle form and customize colors and fonts and shapes of things, etc. It's advanced web programming. The reason we don't support it is because not all of us have that level of skill, and every website is different. So to change the font of something is different on one website to another. To change the size of a particular box, while your form is different compared to someone else's. So it's all, for us to support, it's very intensive and quite hard, especially trying to work out what you're trying to do. So it's there if you want it, use at your own risk, some general information to get you started if you want to attempt it. Changing the buttons, so these buttons down here, submit and reset, you can relabel those if you want to. Include a reCAPTCHA, that's that annoying "are you a robot" thing. Recommended for anything that's financial though, or if you're getting a lot of submissions, like some robot has gotten a hold of the link to your form via your website and it's giving you rubbish, then you can use that reCAPTCHA to hopefully stop that. Availability, so that was that whole, you can sign up from Monday to Friday. And is it active immediately or not? When the form is completed, do we want to notify one of our staff members, or do we want to notify a group of them? So this is useful for things like new signups. You might want someone to follow up or be aware of that, or to track numbers perhaps. So you can do that as well. That will send an email to whoever you select. You can have that email just say there is a new registration for the form alpha registration form. Or you can include all of the information from the form as well. So it says there's a new registration, here's the details. So you've got a choice there, and you can select that by ticking or unticking that. Also, when the form is completed, what do we do? What do we show the person? So let's show them a message on the screen. In this case, thank you, we have received your registration. You'll get a confirmation email shortly. But we can also take them to a website, so take the user to a web page. That is really useful to keep the branding going. So when you embed this form on your website, they fill it in, and then you take them to an information page that also says thank you. So if you've got that ability, that is a great option to keep people engaged, which is key. But if you don't, then just popping up that message to let them know. Stay on the form after the message. So the form gets filled out, they see the message, thank you, we've received, etc. Then by default, infoodle after 5 seconds is going to go back to a blank form. This is super useful for kiosks when people are coming and registering or signing up for a prize draw or checking in or something like that, and there's a tablet on a kiosk system. That's really useful. But if you want the message to remain up because it's someone at home and they need to see this information, you can check that box. And finally, who can process this form? So that if there's a team member or a group of people that are responsible for these form entries and they're the only person that can approve it, you would select them here. So critical information. When the form gets submitted, do we want to send an email out to them? So yes, we do. So we've got that all over here. So we can use the information from the form as well. So we've got this dear and first name. So that's the first name from the field itself. So if we go back to build form, there's the first name over here. So it's going to use that block there. So you can build a response that's personalized to them after they fill out. So these are all of those fields that have gone there. So we could say confirming your email address. Great to see you're also a Smith, or whatever you wanted to do. We've noted that your allergies are X, Y, and Z, etc. What is the email subject? What's the design? Who's it from, etc. So you've all got all of that information there. And then finally, publish. So publish is how you get this form in people's hands. The top two links are just a literal link for a website. This is our permanent link. This is the one you're probably going to use the most. And this is our pretty link. So this link changes if you change the form name. So at the moment it says alpha registration from. We've discovered, oh no, we've spelt that wrong. So we'll change that to form. But that means that the link is going to change to form. So if we've already sent this link out to people via email and then we update this, that link's not going to work anymore. So just be aware of that. And that's where our permanent link comes in. And then we've got embed on your website. So this is a copy paste. So even if you don't have a lot of website experience, you may be able to put it on your website by yourself by just copying that, go to your website where you edit it and paste that. And then it'll appear embedded on your website, just like we're seeing here with our registration for our training. So this is just a raw infoodle form. We've copied it, we pasted it, and it appeared, and now it fills that data up, it sends it to our database, and you're ready for approval. Okay, so pretty key. You can also preview what these forms are going to look like right here. So if I click preview, I can see quickly what that form's roughly going to look like, and I can see it in multiple interfaces. The live view will allow me to actually edit and fill out this form, and delete form is to get rid of it. So that's a real quick summary of the forms. The sort of things that you want to just realize is these forms can be used for a lot of things. They can just be registering for an event like we're seeing there, but it could be updating your contact details, where you just create a section, add a heading there called like we were doing earlier, update my details, and then you select the fields that you want them to update. So probably their name, their email address, their phone number. Okay, and maybe we also want to see, do they have a nickname? Do they have allergies? And let's see, we don't care about that, but also maybe the occupation. So we're going to make the email mandatory. We're going to make the person's name mandatory, and for us the occupation is particularly useful for our type of organization, so we're going to make that mandatory. Save that, they can update their details, comes in, we approve it, and it actually updates their details based on that. We talked about stock items. This is particularly useful for places that are still getting restrictions from the pandemic or future pandemics. Let's hope that we don't have any more. So we've had restrictions of only 10 people, only of 100 people, etc. So using stock items, you can restrict that there's only 100 tickets, and then you can put that on your form so people can start registering. Once all of those slots are used, you can't register anymore. So different things like that to manage your process and make life easier. Finally, just one other thing I want to point out is taking payments with an infoodle form is extremely powerful, especially if you're using Stripe and or Xero. We've got a really good tight integration with both. So you can take a payment from an infoodle form. We've got the person's name, their details, etc. That payment goes through to Stripe. We are integrated with Stripe, so we see that payout information, and we can do the splitting of that. We can handle the bank fees, and then we can push that all to Xero. So we take those payments with an infoodle form, and then we've got this payout section for our Stripe payments, or go cardless as well. We can see the payouts that Stripe have sent us, and we can see the different line items for those, and we also know the fees. We can click reconcile, and that's going to split it automatically in infoodle to all the appropriate people, so that you can receipt immediately for the full $10, for the full amount they donated. It's there, it's ready to go. And then a new button appears called push to Xero. So we can send that up, split up with the bank fees and the line items with the people's names. So when that money eventually does reach Xero, all you're doing is ticking off on a list, basically. You're reconciling automatically. You don't have to manually be searching for people. It's very, very quick, and it turns a otherwise slow and onerous process into a very quick and easy process that's accurate. So that's something that's super powerful with the infoodle forms, that if you are taking payments, this is something you should be considering and thinking about, because it's going to save a lot of time and prevent a lot of errors. If you do have any questions or want any more information, we do have the support button in the bottom left that you can click to send us an email. At the top right, we've got the help, which gives you a lot of help videos. We have a full training session on forms, which goes into a lot more detail. And we've got a ton of help documents, so do use those. We encourage that you have a bit of a play, but don't let yourself get to the banging your head against the wall stage. Rather get in touch with us before you're at that stage, and we totally want to help you, get you through this process and guide you. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you in the next session.